There are many reasons why I have this pessimism, hesitation to believe anything really is going to happen to stop this. And I admit part of it is rooted in my just natural cynicism, having been around as long as I have and having seen various struggles all of a sudden pop up out of the collective consciousness, and we're made aware of something has to be done. And then the energy to propel it just sort of disappears. I've seen that so many times, haven't you? But here's what really worries me. There are, 7 billion roughly of us, human beings. Get on YouTube sometime. Go to YouTube and take a look at how billions of people on this planet live day to day. Now, you have to take a deep dive into videos that you don't want to see. Slums in Kolkata or Nairobi or Detroit or Buenos Aires or, if not slums, poverty-stricken places in some of the old Soviet republics. Just do it. Take a look. Take a look at how billions of people live in the conditions under which they are expected to exist. And then think to yourself, now, how do we tell those people, billions of them, who live far worse than pets owned by Americans or Europeans or wealthy South Americans or South Africans? How do we tell billions of people who live in a shit environment that they would trade instantly if they could have the same environment that an American house pet would have? How do we tell them, okay, look, you're going to have to get educated. You're going to have to move into a house with running water. You're going to have to stop shitting in the street and learn how to use the toilet. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do that. And these billions of people are going to look at us and the equivalent of whatever language they think and say, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm barely staying alive here. I go out and work in huge, monstrous, stinking city dumps, digging through the trash and the crap and the poison, looking for little scraps of metal that I can go sell to some middleman who will then resell it to somebody else, who will then sell it to a manufacturer, who then will send it to a company in China, who will then make televisions, who will then sell them to Americans. And you're telling me that I have to do what now? See, that's the problem. Take a look at those videos. I mean, seriously. Take a look at how the majority, that's right, how the majority of people live. Take a look at how the factory workers in Bangladesh live when they leave the factory. It's that's the root of my pessimism, where it concerns how do we attack global warming? How do we stop the goddamn Himalayan glaciers that are melting? How do we stop the ice sheets in Greenland and Iceland from deteriorating to the point that they are? How do we stop these huge, hundreds of thousands of square mile chunks of the Antarctic ice sheet from breaking off and falling into the Pacific. How do we do this? How do we do this? Laugh, Malloy. Go ahead. Laugh. Yeah. I read something yesterday that some of the leading coal executives in this country are finally admitting that the age of coal is over. It's over. And it's my understanding that Xi Jinping, the fascist, filthy, torturing son of a bitch who heads China, has said, well, we're going to eliminate coal too. Oh, the fuck they are. No, they're not. One of Joe Biden's biggest political obstacles is international. And the Christian fascists in this country say the United States should not be asked to sacrifice if the world's biggest emitters will swallow up our efforts in their pollution. Of course, aren't we number one or number two in terms of pollution? The Christian fascists don't want to mention that, of course. No, our pollution is the engine of progress. It is the dynamic force behind everybody in America is middle class now. You didn't know that? Anyway, Biden's target of 50 to 52% reduction by the end of this decade means that there has to be a precipitous drop of fossil fuel use in every sector of the American economy. And you know what else it marks? It marks what is sure to be a bitter partisan fight over it. See, the Christian fascists, the former Republicans, they don't give a fuck about climate change. They're all going to heaven. They don't care. They damn sure don't care about the generations that are going to have to struggle to fucking breathe after they're dead and floating around in heaven. They don't care about that shit. So how do you have somebody like Joe Biden with the task of convincing the Christian fascists to do something? And they're not going to do anything. They will do something. They will fight tooth and nail to prevent any effort at all at reducing emissions in this country. The Christian fascists will fight it tooth and nail because they don't care. These are cult believers. These are sick son of a bitches who have wormed their way into power over the past 30 years. And now, by virtue of their minority power, they control states. They control legislatures. They can control any action taken by the U.S. House or Senate to get something done. And then you have within the Democratic Party that's fighting all this, these apostate son of a bitches like Joe Manchin of West Virginia, the new cock of the walk, so to speak. So, there we are. So today and tomorrow, Thursday and Friday, this virtual conference of nations, I think there are 40, 50, 60 nations who are participating in this, which is, not even a third of the nations on the planet? But those 50 or 60 nations are the biggest destroyers of life on this planet. So for today and tomorrow, they'll be meeting and talking, and maybe something will come of it, maybe something of significant consequence in terms of turning this around or slowing it down, not turning around, but slowing it down, keeping it manageable until such time as my fantasy, since I'm such a pessimist about this, until such time as my fantasy might come to fruition, and that would be technological advancements that will reverse global climate destruction. And that is a fantasy, I understand. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.